everyone, today we're going to be playing Corpse Party. Let's get right into it. Huh? What happened to me? Didn't I pass out? So why am I fully aware right now? I can't see a thing, and I can't move. It's like that feeling you get when you're really tired. Sleep paralysis, I think. Where? Why can't I move? Sachiko Shinozaki, the little girl in the red dress and the only survivor of the horrific that occurred in Heavenly Host Elementary School. Following the incident, Sachiko's family fled from the area, moving to another prefecture to escape the frightful memories that remained here. Strangely, however, I've been unable to locate any other records of the Shinozaki family. No matter where I look, the only information I can find about them comes from newspaper reports on the Heavenly Host. Granted, when an elementary school becomes the stage for a grisly incident such as this, perpetrated by none other than the principal's own son, it stands to reason that the scandal would serve as the primary focus for public interest, with all other details fading into the background. So of course, after learning that Sachiko was safe, further news of her whereabouts was largely ignored in favor of the media circus surrounding the school. But there's more to it than that. People weren't just uninterested in learning of Sachiko's history or whereabouts, there was simply no data to be had. I can't move my body because of sleep paralysis, I guess. But I can clearly see the room I'm in now. There's one boy and two girls in here, aside from myself. I recognize them. They're the children who were in Heavenly Host during that incident, but they're still alive. Unfortunately, they're all bound hand and foot and just sprawled out on the floor, and so am I. That's the real reason I can't move. Somebody please save me! No, stop! No, please, no! Eyes. No, I can't see. Now I'm blindfolded. I can't see a thing that's happening to me. And since my hands and feet are tied up, I can't remove the blindfold either.
That just makes everything so much worse.
I guess because I can't see, I begin to listen more intently. The helpless cries of the other children echo off the walls of the cramped room. I'm so scared it feels like my head's going to explode. What are you doing to me? Why am I blindfolded? Untie me! Cut their ropes! I want to be able to use my hands and feet, please! Please! I kept begging and pleading, but all I heard in response was the man walking away from me. In order, okay? In order? I've never heard screaming like this before. It's pure primal terror cutting through the air like a perfect sine wave. It's the boy at the end. It feels like he's been screaming for an eternity. I think he's being right now. My God, what is he doing to him? No one deserves this. Why isn't God allowing him to fall unconscious so he doesn't have to suffer? It's been at least a half an hour now. Those inhuman screams of a young boy being ripped apart from the inside have finally come to a halt. Without even a single moment of silence, the first of the girls in line is the next to scream for her life, and the symphony goes on. God, I can't take any more of this. I'm losing my mind. Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it! Is it still going on? Come on, just already. Already? God, what is wrong with me? You know what? I don't care. Just get it over with and leave me in peace. Wow. Finally, after hearing a sound like a heavy object being dropped, the noises stopped and the room grew quiet again. Those footsteps are getting closer. All my hair standing on the end at this point. Everything below my stomach feels like it's frozen, like I've suddenly been stricken with severe diarrhea.
In order? God, why am I relieved by the silence? The kid next to me just...
which means it's my turn now. Ah! Someone's got me by the hair. They're pulling my head up and taking off my blindfold, which means I get to see the face of my. The four children were found in a basement room at Heavenly Host Elementary School, unused and officially sealed since the building's construction. When authorities entered, they were greeted with an inhumanly horrific sight. Based upon the evidence at hand, the weapon was determined to be a pair of large sewing scissors found in the hands of the accused. Investigators suspected some hesitation on the man's part, however, as the deceased victim's wounds did not indicate that his full strength had been used. Nonetheless, he had clearly acted with extreme malicious intent. The official cause of for the three children had been listed as loss of following removal of the tongue, but the actual state of affairs was not quite so clinical, nor even so pleasant, if you can believe it. The following details have been extrapolated from information previously unreleased to the public, or at least previously unreported by news outlets. These details of the crime are based on the official police testimony of Sachiko Shinozaki herself. Evidently, the victims were bound, blindfolded, and spaced out on the floor, then killed one by one. One was repeatedly in the abdomen with the aforementioned pair of scissors, then had many of his internal organs forcefully dug out. His discarded innards were found
Partially
buried beneath the earthen floor of the basement room. Another was in the head dozens upon dozens of times, to such an extent that all flesh and bone above her jawline was essentially minced away. With my blindfold removed, the sight that appeared before me was more horrific than anything I could possibly have imagined. The person staring back at me brandished a pair of sewing scissors. Wasn't the large man from earlier at all. It was one of the children. It was a little girl. Her face dyed red with the blood of her victims. She was staring intently at me with soulless gray eyes, and then she just started giggling. She was opening and closing the scissors over and over again, and the sound kept echoing through the room. Then she took those dull, rusty, thoroughly soaked blades and slowly brought them closer and closer to my left eye. How? Why? Why is it you? No, no! The third victim was in the left eye an indeterminate number of times, until her eyeball became soup-like in consistency. She was eventually just left like that, slowly to in horrible agony. Strangely, it was only after the had already been inflicted that the went back and severed the victims' tongues. Learning the truth about these proceedings is shocking even to me, and makes it nearly impossible to accept the as anything but a monster. And bearing witness to every moment of this was a 7-year-old girl named Sachiko. In many ways, she's the most pitiful and long-suffering of them all. But it was through her tearful, frightened testimony that Yoshikazu Yanagihori was officially charged. Now, going back to the hunt for information on this unfortunate girl's whereabouts, it was her words that ultimately led to Yoshikazu's sentencing. Therefore, it comes as no real surprise that sensitive information pertaining to her and her family would be withheld. That's to be expected. What's not expected, however, is that there's not even the slightest trace of this information left to find. It's as if it simply never existed. Therefore, I cannot help but consider alternate possible explanations, and I remind you, this is mere conjecture. But one question keeps nagging at the back of my mind: was Yoshikazu Yanagihori really the of the 3 victims? Is it possible this crime was not actually perpetrated by him at all? Think about it, in his final days, Yoshikazu was incapable of communicating with others through speech. And despite his childlike reversion, he'd always been a personable and friendly man. As the saying goes, he wouldn't have hurt a fly. All his relatives, friends, and neighbors confirmed as much, shocked to hear that such a kindly man could commit these unconscionable atrocities. He certainly had no motive for the crime either. There was nothing for him to gain from it. Then again, he may simply have lost his mind. Look at his father. It was around the same time that Principal Takamine Yanagi Hori suddenly began speaking in tongues and acting in a most peculiar way. Not to mention scribbling incomprehensible gibberish all over his walls as if possessed. He seemed frightened of someone and would often be found crouching in the corner of his office, moaning and thrashing when visitors came by. If he could wind up in such a beleaguered state with no warning, then perhaps so too could his son. I believe that we're looking at a curse far more powerful than any man could devise. From the time it opened its doors to the day it closed them forever, Heavenly Host Elementary School's sealed basement room has existed as some form of cursed ground. And to find the underlying cause, we must go back beyond the infamous and incident. Back a whole 20 years. I believe I may have found a clue that could shed some light on the situation. It may be a bit far-fetched as leads go, but it is a lead nonetheless. Regrettably, since Heavenly Host was not only closed down but demolished altogether and another school built in its place, it's no longer possible to investigate the basement room directly. But my protege has found what may be the next best thing. Something that could make the impossible possible once more. Preparations are being made to pursue this lead even now. Be sure not to miss the next installment. It may be the scoop of a lifetime. Kaukibiki 2003-722. Continued in Chapter 5. Okay, that's good for now. Hope you enjoyed.